The worn wooden door of Riley's diner swung open with a tired squeak as Daniel Pierce nearly stumbled inside. Exhaustion etched across his face like weathered lines on an old map. The rain outside had soaked through his second-hand jacket, and his work boots left damp prints on the linoleum floor. His calloused hands, still bearing traces of motor oil from the garage where he'd worked overtime, fumbled with his wallet as he counted the few bills inside. "Just coffee, please," he said to the waitress, his voice quiet but determined. At the corner booth, a woman sat alone, staring into her untouched cup of tea, tears silently tracking down her cheeks. Her designer clothes seemed at odds with her broken demeanor, but Daniel barely noticed her status symbols. He only saw someone in pain. The waitress placed his steaming mug before him, and as he reached for the sugar, a sudden crash from the corner booth caught his attention. The woman had knocked over her cup, tea spilling across the table and onto important-looking documents. Daniel was on his feet before he could think, grabbing napkins from his table and hurrying over. "Here, let me help," he offered, quickly blotting the spreading liquid before it could do more damage. "Thank you," the woman whispered, her voice cracking slightly. "I'm such a mess today." Her red-rimmed eyes looked up at him, vulnerability replacing what must have normally been confidence. "Rough day?" Daniel asked, helping salvage her paperwork. She gave a humorless laugh. "Rough month. I'm Rachel Velasquez." "Daniel Pierce," he replied with a gentle smile. Sometimes talking to a stranger helps. No judgment, no history, just a friendly ear. Little did Daniel know that this simple act of kindness would change both their lives forever. Rachel hesitated, then gestured to the empty seat across from her. "I wouldn't want to burden you." "No burden," Daniel said, sliding into the booth. "Besides, my coffee's getting cold anyway." He glanced at his watch. He had an hour before he needed to pick up his daughter from after-school care. "I'm going through a divorce," Rachel admitted after a moment of silence. "My husband." Ex-husband soon. He decided our 12 years together meant nothing when his yoga instructor showed interest. Daniel nodded sympathetically. "I've been there. Different circumstances, but same broken feeling." "You're divorced too?" she asked. "Widower," he corrected gently. "Car accident, 3 years ago. It's just me and my 8-year-old daughter Lily now." Rachel's eyes softened with genuine compassion. "I'm so sorry. That must be incredibly difficult." "We manage," Daniel said with a small shrug, unwilling to burden this already troubled woman with his financial struggles, the second job he'd taken on, or the leaking roof in their small rental home that he couldn't afford to fix. "What about you? Any kids?" Rachel shook her head. "We were always too busy building the company. Now I realize he was just too busy with other things." She brushed away a fresh tear. "Sorry, these divorce papers just make it all so final." Daniel noticed the thick stack of documents. "That looks complicated." "It is when there's a business involved," she said vaguely. "My lawyer says I shouldn't sign anything yet, but Richard, my ex, is pressuring me to settle quickly." "Then definitely don't sign," Daniel said firmly. "Never make big decisions when you're emotional. My dad taught me that." Rachel smiled for the first time. "Your dad sounds wise." "He was," Daniel agreed. "A mechanic like me, but he could fix just about anything. People too, sometimes." They talked for nearly 45 minutes, and Daniel was surprised at how easy it was to speak with Rachel. Despite her obvious education and poise, she listened intently to his stories about Lily and never once made him feel less than her equal. In turn, he offered what comfort he could about her divorce without prying too deeply into her business affairs. When his watch beeped, Daniel reluctantly stood. "I need to pick up my daughter, but listen, if you ever need someone to talk to." He hesitated, then pulled an old receipt from his pocket and scribbled his number on the back. "No pressure, just if you need a friend." Rachel took the crumpled paper, holding it carefully. "Thank you, Daniel. You've been kinder than you know." As he hurried out into the rain toward his rusty pickup truck, Daniel had no idea he'd just met the CEO of Velasquez Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the state. He only knew he'd met someone who needed a friend as much as he did. 3 days later, Daniel was replacing the transmission in a 2010 Camry when his phone buzzed in his pocket. The unknown number made him frown usually. Unknown calls meant bill collectors. "Daniel Pierce," he answered cautiously. "Hi, Daniel, it's Rachel, from the diner." His expression softened immediately. "Rachel, hey, how are you holding up?" "Better, I think. I was wondering, would you let me buy you and your daughter dinner tonight, as thanks for listening to me the other day?" Daniel hesitated. His instinct was to refuse charity, but he could hear the hope in her voice, and truth be told, a meal he didn't have to cook after a 12-hour shift sounded wonderful. "You don't have to thank me." "I want to," she insisted. "Nothing fancy, just a little pizza place I know. Kid-friendly, I promise." Daniel thought about the nearly empty refrigerator at home and his daughter's face when he mentioned pizza. "All right, but next time it's my treat." He immediately wondered if there would be a next time, and why the thought made him feel lighter than he had in months. That evening, at Gino's Pizzeria, Lily Pierce's chatter filled the comfortable silence between the adults. Rachel seemed genuinely charmed by the precocious, 8-year-old with her father's dark hair and determined chin. And then, Miss Rachel, I told Jimmy that girls can be astronauts and mechanics if they want, Lily declared around a mouthful of pepperoni pizza. "She certainly gets her stubbornness from me," Daniel said with a proud smile. "A valuable trait," Rachel replied, looking at Lily with genuine interest. "I had to be stubborn to get where I am in my career." "What do you do?" Daniel asked, suddenly realizing he knew almost nothing about Rachel's professional life. Rachel took a sip of her soda, her answer carefully measured. "I work in technology, product development mainly." It wasn't a lie, but it omitted the fact that she was the founder and CEO of a company with over 200 employees. "That sounds interesting," Daniel said sincerely. "Lily's teacher says she's got a knack for computers. The school has a coding club, but—" He trailed off, not wanting to admit that the club's fees were beyond his budget. Rachel noticed the hesitation and filed it away mentally. "Maybe I could show Lily some basics sometime, if that's okay with both of you." Lily's eyes widened with excitement. "Can she, Dad, please?" Daniel smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm. "We'll see. Miss Rachel is probably very busy." "Never too busy for a future astronaut mechanic coder," Rachel said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. As weeks passed, Rachel found herself inventing reasons to see Daniel and Lily. A casual text about a family movie at the park became a picnic. Questions about local mechanics led to Daniel helping her choose a reliable used car rather than replacing her luxury vehicle after the divorce, something he later learned was a deliberate choice to appear less intimidating as she slowly revealed more about herself. For Daniel, Rachel's friendship became an unexpected bright spot in his challenging life. She never made him feel like a charity case, always finding ways to contribute that preserved his dignity. When she mentioned having extra tickets to the Science Museum, it was because a client couldn't use them. When she brought over dinner, it was because she was testing recipes and made too much. One rainy Saturday afternoon, while Lily napped after an exciting morning at the children's library with Rachel, Daniel finally asked the question that had been nagging him. "Rachel, can I ask you something personal?" She looked up from her tablet where she'd been checking emails, actually reviewing quarterly projections. "Of course. Why do you spend so much time with us?" His voice was gentle but direct. "You're educated, successful. You could be anywhere with anyone. Instead, you're helping an 8-year-old with her science project and watching Disney movies with a mechanic." Rachel set down her tablet, considering her answer carefully. She'd been gradually revealing more about her position at work, but hadn't yet disclosed that she was the CEO whose face occasionally appeared in business magazines. "Because when we met, you saw me at my lowest moment. Not what I could offer you, not my status, just a person who needed kindness." Her eyes met his with unexpected vulnerability. "Do you know how rare that is?" Daniel felt a warmth spread through his chest at her words. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Rachel said with quiet certainty. "Not anyone, just you." She took a deep breath. "Daniel, there's something I should tell you about my work." The moment was interrupted by Lily padding into the room, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Dad, can we have hot chocolate? It's raining hot chocolate weather." The conversation shifted, but something had changed between them, an unspoken acknowledgement that what they were building was more than friendship. Rachel's divorce finalized 3 months after she met Daniel. She celebrated not with champagne, but with a trip to the local ice cream parlor with Daniel and Lily. As Lily ran ahead to look at all 31 flavors, Daniel surprised Rachel by taking her hand. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. "You're free now." Rachel looked at their intertwined fingers, his calloused and strong, hers with a fresh manicure she'd gotten that morning. "Yes," she agreed, "free to start something new." Their first kiss happened a week later on Daniel's front porch, after he'd cooked her dinner, a simple meal of pasta that he'd stressed over all day. It was gentle, questioning, and over too quickly, but it left both of them smiling like teenagers. "I've wanted to do that for a long time," he admitted. "What took you so long?" she teased, leaning in for a second, less hesitant kiss. The following morning, Rachel sat in her spacious corner office at Velasquez Innovations, staring at the skyline view without really seeing it. Her assistant, Mark, knocked lightly on the door frame. "The investment team is waiting in the conference room, Miss Velasquez." "Thank you, Mark. I'll be right there." She gathered her notes, but her mind kept drifting to Daniel's smile, to the way his strong arms had held her close on the porch swing. "Miss Velasquez," Mark's voice pulled her back to reality. "Is everything all right?" Rachel smiled. "Everything is perfect, actually. But I need to tell someone important the whole truth about my job, and I'm not sure how he'll take it." Mark, who had been with her since the company's earliest days, raised an eyebrow. "The mechanic. You've been reading my calendar," Rachel observed without annoyance. "It's my job," Mark replied. "For what it's worth, if he's half as good as you seem to think he is, he'll understand why you were cautious." Rachel nodded, hoping he was right. That evening, she texted Daniel, "Need to talk to you about something important. Dinner tomorrow night. Just us." His reply came quickly. "Everything okay? Should I be worried?" Rachel smiled at his concern. "Nothing bad, I promise. Just something I should have told you sooner." Daniel arranged for his neighbor, Mrs. Gonzalez, to watch Lily, and Rachel picked him up the following evening. She drove them to a quiet, upscale restaurant by the lake, not ostentatious, but certainly nicer than anywhere they'd been together before. "This is beautiful," Daniel commented as they were seated at a window table overlooking the water. "Special occasion." "In a way," Rachel replied, her stomach fluttering with nerves. After they ordered, she took a deep breath. "Daniel, I haven't been completely honest with you about my work." His expression grew serious. "Okay, I'm not just in product development. I'm the founder and CEO of Velasquez Innovations." She watched his face carefully. "We develop educational technology platforms. The company is quite successful." Daniel was silent for a long moment, processing this information. "So when you said your divorce was complicated because of the business?" "Richard wanted half the company I built from nothing," she confirmed. "That's what all those papers were that day at the diner. Why didn't you tell me?" His voice wasn't accusatory, just questioning. Rachel looked down at her hands. "At first, it didn't seem important. You were just a kind stranger. Then, as we got to know each other, I was afraid it would change things between us. People treat me differently when they know." Daniel reached across the table, taking her hand. "Rachel, I fell for the woman who gets excited explaining coding concepts to my 8-year-old. The woman who cried watching Inside Out and who burns toast every single time she tries to make it. Your job title doesn't change any of that." Relief washed over her face. "You're not upset?" "That you run a successful company. Why would that upset me?" he smiled wryly. Though it does explain why you never seem worried about money. Rachel hesitated. There's a significant income difference between us, Daniel. Some men would find that threatening. Daniel considered this. I won't pretend it doesn't make me think. I've always been the provider. It's part of who I am, but I'm secure enough to be proud of your success rather than threatened by it. Her eyes glistened slightly. You continue to surprise me, Daniel Pierce. Good, he said with a gentle smile. Because I plan to keep doing that for a long time. As their relationship deepened over the following months, they navigated the complexities of their different worlds with honesty and humor. Rachel attended Lily's school play wearing jeans and a sweater, sitting among the other parents without drawing attention. Daniel, initially uncomfortable at a company function, found himself engaged in a lengthy conversation with Rachel's lead engineer about classic car restoration. The first real challenge came when Daniel's landlord decided to sell the small house he and Lily had been renting. With the rental market tight and prices soaring, Daniel faced a difficult situation. Move in with me, Rachel suggested as they discussed his options over coffee one morning. My house has plenty of room, and Lily already loves staying over on weekends. Daniel's pride warred with practicality. Rachel, I can't just live in your house without contributing. Then contribute, she said reasonably. Pay what you can afford for rent, handle the yard work you enjoy so much, and cook those amazing Sunday breakfasts that Lily and I both love. People will talk, he said after a moment. They'll say I'm with you for your money. Rachel's expression grew serious. Daniel, look at me. Do you really care what people think more than what's best for Lily? For us. The mention of his daughter's welfare pierced through his pride. Lily had flourished with Rachel in her life, her grades improving, her confidence growing. The prospect of moving her to a less safe neighborhood or forcing her to change schools again was something he'd been dreading. You're right, he admitted, but I need to contribute fairly. They worked out an arrangement that preserved Daniel's dignity while acknowledging their financial reality. He insisted on paying a reasonable rent based on his income, took over maintenance of the house and yard, and continued working at the garage he'd come to partly own after years of dedication. Moving day arrived with mixed emotions. As Daniel carried boxes into Rachel's spacious craftsman-style home, he couldn't help feeling both grateful and uncertain. Dad, Miss Rachel says I can paint my room any color I want. Lily bounded down the stairs, her excitement palpable. Daniel smiled at his daughter's joy. Within reason, Lil. No neon green. But Dad, she protested. How about a compromise? Rachel suggested, appearing behind Lily. One accent wall in the bold color of your choice and the others in a complementary shade. Lily considered this with all the seriousness of contract negotiations. Can I have stars on the ceiling too? Absolutely, Rachel agreed. Your dad is quite handy with a paintbrush. As Lily raced back upstairs to plan her dream room, Rachel slipped her arm around Daniel's waist. You okay? You seem quiet. He looked around at the beautiful home that spoke of Rachel's success, the hardwood floors, the built-in bookshelves, the large windows. Just adjusting. It's a big change. Home isn't about the building, Rachel reminded him. It's about the people in it. That night, after Lily had finally fallen asleep in her new room, Daniel found Rachel on the back porch, looking up at the stars. Thank you, he said simply, sitting beside her. For what? For making this transition so easy for Lily, for understanding my need to contribute, for being you. He took her hand, his expression growing serious. I love you, Rachel. I think I have since that day in the diner. Rachel's breath caught. They'd been dancing around those words for weeks. I love you too, Daniel, more than I thought possible after everything with Richard. The following months brought adjustments as they blended their lives more completely. Daniel struggled occasionally with the wealth disparity, especially when Rachel wanted to help financially with things for Lily. They learned to communicate through these sensitive issues, finding balance between Rachel's generosity and Daniel's independence. For her part, Rachel discovered the simple pleasures that had been missing from her driven life: impromptu family picnics, movie nights with popcorn fights, and Sunday mornings with Daniel's legendary pancakes. Her employees noticed the change, commenting on her more relaxed demeanor and improved work-life balance. Christmas approached, their first holiday season as a family. Daniel saved carefully to buy Rachel a delicate silver necklace with 3 intertwined circles representing them. Lily crafted a ceramic jewelry box in her art class, painting it with surprising skill. Rachel, meanwhile, struggled with what to give Daniel. She could afford anything, but new material luxury wasn't what mattered to him. After much consideration, she made her decision. On Christmas morning, as they sat around the tree in pajamas, Lily tore through her gifts with typical 8-year-old enthusiasm. Rachel had been generous but thoughtful, choosing educational toys and experiences rather than overwhelming her with stuff. When it was time for the adults to exchange gifts, Daniel presented Rachel with his carefully wrapped package. Her genuine delight at the necklace and Lily's handmade box brought tears to her eyes. "Your turn," she said, handing Daniel a small envelope. Inside was a single key and a document. Daniel looked confused until he read the paper: the deed to his late father's auto shop, which had been sold years ago when the owner retired. "How did you?" he began, his voice thick with emotion. "I tracked down the current owner. He was ready to sell." Rachel squeezed his hand. "It's not a gift, Daniel. It's an investment. I believe in you. The bank paperwork is already done for a business loan in your name with reasonable terms. You'll be the full owner, running it your way." Daniel stared at the key, overwhelmed. "Rachel, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll build the business you've always dreamed of," she replied softly. "The one your father would be proud of." Lily, sensing the emotional importance of the moment, wrapped her arms around both of them. "Does this mean Dad gets to be the boss like you, Miss Rachel?" Rachel laughed, wiping a tear. "Exactly like that, sweetheart." That evening, after Lily had gone to bed surrounded by her new treasures, Daniel and Rachel sat by the fireplace, talking about the future. "You know," Daniel said thoughtfully, "when Sophia died, I thought that was it for me. Just Lily and work and getting through each day." Rachel rested her head against his shoulder. "I felt the same after Richard. I threw myself into the company, convinced that business success could fill the emptiness." "And now?" Daniel asked, stroking her hair. "Now I know better," she said simply. "The company is still important, but it's not everything. You and Lily, this is what matters most." Daniel shifted, suddenly moving to one knee before her. Rachel's eyes widened as he pulled a small box from his pocket. "I was going to wait," he explained, "until I had the shop up and running, until I felt more equal. But today made me realize something. We're already equals where it counts." He opened the box, revealing a modest but beautiful ring with a small diamond. "I saved for months." "It's not fancy, it's perfect," Rachel interrupted, her voice trembling. "Absolutely perfect. Rachel Velasquez, CEO extraordinaire and the woman who brought joy back into our lives, will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered, pulling him close. 1,000 times yes." They were married the following spring in a ceremony that reflected both their worlds, elegant but unpretentious, with Lily proudly serving as both flower girl and ring bearer. Rachel's corporate team mixed with Daniel's mechanic friends, finding surprising common ground in their shared happiness for the couple. By their first anniversary, Pierce and Daughter Auto Repair was thriving under Daniel's ownership. He'd implemented a training program for disadvantaged youth, teaching them marketable skills while providing reliable service to the community. Rachel had created a flexible work schedule that allowed her to be home for family dinners most nights, and her company had launched a highly successful educational software platform that Lily had helped test. On a warm summer evening, as they sat watching Lily ride her bike up and down their quiet street, Daniel took Rachel's hand. "You know what I was thinking?" he asked. Rachel leaned against his shoulder contentedly. "Maybe it's time to give Lily a sibling." Rachel turned to him, her face lighting up with joy. Really? You want another child with you? Absolutely. He kissed her gently. Besides, Lily's been dropping hints for months. Yesterday she asked if we could order a baby brother for her birthday. Rachel laughed. Did you explain it doesn't quite work that way? I left that conversation for you, CEO Mom. He grinned. You're better at the technical explanations. As they discussed their expanding family plans, neither could have imagined that this moment of domestic tranquility had its origins in a chance meeting at a small diner on a rainy day. Daniel, the struggling single father who had offered kindness without expectation, and Rachel, the successful businesswoman vulnerable in the wake of betrayal, had found in each other exactly what they needed most. Their story wasn't one of perfect fairy tale romance, but of real love built on respect, understanding, and the daily choice to put each other first. In the years that followed, through the birth of their son David, through business challenges and triumphs, through Lily's growth into a confident young woman, they remained each other's greatest support and truest friends. And sometimes, when life got especially hectic, they would return to Riley's diner, sitting in that same corner booth, reminding themselves of where their journey began with a simple act of kindness and a coffee growing cold.